Does Bitcoin maximalism have an eventual expiration date? Pretty much everyone knows these days in the crypto space, but might as well let you know anyway. What is Bitcoin maximalism? Well, basically there's a few different definitions, but usually when it's used, it means someone who believes that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that is viable long term. That is the one that works, everything else does not work, everything else is a scam or a shitcoin or whatever else. There are some variants in the definition where some people believe that Bitcoin is simply going to be the world's reserve currency and that it's probably the most important crypto and will be dominant for a while, but that there are uses for other chains elsewhere. Now, that's not usually what people mean when they say Bitcoin maximalism, but either way, hey, it's another definition. So my thought on this is, yes, it eventually will have an expiration date because Bitcoin was founded way back in the day of 2009. It has undergone a series of improvements since then, but nothing very major. It's still the very same basic structure, the same proof of work mining algorithm, the same difficulty adjustment mechanism. It's got the same base 1 megabyte block size limit, although because of SegWit and block weight and all this stuff, it's closer to 2 megabytes right now. But it's got that same limitation to on-chain scaling. It's got just a lot of stuff that's very basic and won't really change. As the whole rest of the space just continues to grow and expand and try new stuff, a whole bunch of which fails and just crashes and makes Bitcoin look good by comparison, right? But a whole bunch of stuff does work. And over time, more and more things will start to use these new and exciting and useful projects. Now, in the past, it was always easier to be a Bitcoin maximalist for a few reasons. Well, first, it was just the most valuable cryptocurrency. And guess what? At the time of this video, it still is by a good margin. This might change in the coming bull run towards the end of this year or so, but it's still that way today. And also, for the most part, what you do with cryptocurrencies up until extremely recently has just been send and receive them. And more importantly, hold on to them and watch the value go up, hopefully. And so Bitcoin has been great at those things in certain intervals in the past. It was the number one most useful to send and receive for a while when it became super slow and expensive on-chain. And while the Lightning Network has not really managed to make that different for a lot of people, that might have changed. But to hold on to buy and hold and watch it go up and all that stuff, that it's still pretty much like up there. And even if it's not necessarily the number one on any given day or season, it's still, you can still use that and you can still say, I think this is number one. All the other stuff that's pumping today, well, it'll come down eventually and you can just go about your day. A big reason why maximalism has persisted has been most of the crypto ecosystem has either been just this base send, receive, hold kind of thing, or has run on centralized infrastructure, which has preferred Bitcoin in the past because, the daddy of all cryptos and stuff. So people use centralized exchanges to store cryptocurrency. Then they use centralized social media platforms to talk about it and do laser eyes and stuff. And then they use, whatever else. And so you can kind of stay in your little bubble, be on all the same platforms as everyone else, but just say, I like this coin better. And then this one's the only one that's going to work. And you're kind of insulated from that. However, starting this year, starting 2021, really, one could argue this started several years earlier and stuff, a lot of use cases have started to come out for other chains in a kind of undeniable way. Of course, the big thing is DeFi, decentralized finance, where if people wanted to trade and they don't want to use centralized exchanges for a lot of reasons. The biggest, of course, right now is regulation. Then, they use a decentralized exchange. And those things don't just run, period. They need their own decentralized infrastructure. And what kind of decentralized infrastructure is efficient and, monetized? A crypto infrastructure. So therefore, you have a different chain, a different project that's facilitating these kinds of trades, as of course we've seen with Ethereum and then Uniswap and all those, and then, Pancake Swap on Binance or whatever, Pangolin Index on Avalanche, and now Thorchain, which lets you kind of trade without actually getting wrapped tokens and things like that. You can just swap a crypto for a crypto. And then there you go. So now, even if you just want to do your own maximalist thing and just hold on to your Bitcoin and stuff, a lot of the trading is starting to be moved off into areas that leverage other chains. Of course, the biggest thing, if you just buy Bitcoin with your bank account directly, that's not really going to be off centralized exchanges for a long time, if ever, right? But there's a lot of people that, buy the dip, whatever, move back and forth. A lot of people, especially Bitcoin maximalists, seem to enjoy Tether, USDT, the US dollar-based stablecoin that you can use to go in and out of crypto without actually using fiat currency, and therefore incurring all those regulations. So first off, Tether is already on a whole bunch of different chains. It's already being used on a different blockchain than Bitcoin and stuff to trade for it. And then what if people's trading, like, Bitcoin pumps to the moon, you turn some into Tether, and then it crashes, and then you buy the dip with those Tethers. That would be done in the future on something like Thorchain, on something like Rune, right? And then, all of a sudden you're using a different coin. All of a sudden you're like, well, my coin does everything. Nothing else matters. It's all shit coins while you're using another chain. And that's like the first big thing. But then you go, okay, I have my little crypto YouTube channel. I'm going to talk about all shit coins will die, Bitcoin this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then you get demonetized and deplatformed and regulated and stuff from YouTube. You scream all about it. You don't like it. What's the number one YouTube alternative, especially for crypto people? Odysee. You know what Odysee runs on? The library blockchain. You know what that is? A shit coin. And so all of a sudden, your maximalist stuff, you're going to have to be watching stuff that's on these channels. You're going to have to, as a content creator, move onto these channels. All of a sudden, that's another blockchain you're using, that another crypto token that you're using daily that has nothing to do with this one true Bitcoin type thing. What about social media networks? You get banned off of Twitter, or you just, tweet nasty pomp things all the time and just say, it's going to go up, everything sucks. Then Twitter cracks down on you because whatever. And then where do you go from there once you get censored? Well, there aren't really many good alternatives right now, but I have to say, if there's going to be a decentralized Twitter alternative, it's probably going to be on a blockchain with monetization elements and things. And what if you don't like being snooped on by Google and other things like that? You want to use a privacy-centric browser. Oh, well, the number one is Brave. And you know what Brave uses? The basic attention token. Of course, you don't need it to use the browser, but you can get free money from it by just exposing yourself to watching ads. And there's a lot of stuff that goes through the ecosystem using the BAT token. And if you'd rather it be Bitcoin, well, tough, it's not. I believe that it was actually forked by some Bitcoin maximalists to say, well, we'll just make it run on Lightning or something. And I don't think that ever went anywhere. And so basically, the wall's closing in. Before you know it, everything you use is on cryptocurrencies, but they aren't Bitcoin. And at that point, you can still have a favorite. You can still think this is going to be the base currency for the future, whatever. But you can't say everything else sucks. This is the only thing that's good, because then you're on everything else. And, what can you say that? So in the future, will there be any Bitcoin maximalists? A few. I think so. I think there always will be a few, but they will be one of two kind of main variants, which I don't know how much of a difference there is. A crypto boomer, which is an old school person that just hasn't gotten with the times, and the whole world's moving past them, and they're just, Bitcoin is, back in my day, it was all proof of work, and then you shifted your car like this, and, music made sense and all that. That's all you'll stick with. I'm sure you're doing okay, but, you could be in all this new stuff. It's like, sure, Grandpa, let's get you to the home, right? It's one of those kinds of things where time has passed you by. On the other hand, I'm sure there will be a lot of crypto hipsters, people who are born in the modern era, are of the modern era, but prefer to use old tech for just the oldness and coolness of it. Kind of like, waxing their mustaches, or, riding a little buggy, or whatever old nonsense that, hipsters like to do. Nonsense to me, maybe not to them, right? And so you'll have people who are on all these other services and exchanges and stuff like that, but they prefer to use Bitcoin and run their own node and do some Lightning and verify their own transactions, all this kind of stuff, because that just makes them feel good. They're like hobbyists. It's like, this is the old school way. We appreciate this. We're kind of doing a throwback on all this. And yeah, there will always be those. But as far as people who legitimately are feeling like they're on top of the world because they're on this chain that they think everything runs on, that will control everything, that's going the way of the dodo soon. Do you even remember the dodo? Who knows? Most people don't. And most people won't remember Bitcoin maximalism in 10 or so years. Bet on it.